Okay, thank you. I see Robert. That's good. I'd like to welcome for those who are here in the room. Please note the exits in the unlikely event that they're needed. I'd like to tell you who's here with us this evening. Dick Cushman, Officer Freeman, Tracy Councilman, Gretchen Walter. With us this evening electronically, Mike Bacallo, Judy Boyke, Jonathan Karp. I'll introduce Nancy White when she gets on. Steve Procopio, Elka Johans, Steve Rotuno, Robert Jermaine, Buznicka, Nicole Walsh, Jordy Rogers, Mike Maurizio, and Kate Fiorello. So those are the folks who are here. So if the clerk would please call the roll.
Councilor Boyke.
Here.
Councilor Carr.
Here.
White.
He's signing on right now, I believe.
You can go back to her if you want to.
He's connecting to audio right now. She's on.
Councilor White. Councilor Bacallo.
Present.
And Supervisor Meyer.
Present. Please rise and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance from Richard Cushman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We may have a moment of silence for all of our troops in harm's way, and of course for all our first responders. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda, Nancy,
Yes, sir.
I think you have item number 2.
Approval of abstracts. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board approves abstract number 33 dated August 12th, 2020, and number 34 dated August 19th, 2020.
Second,
Discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
yes.
Aye.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Mike, you have number 3?
Capital project. Resolved that the town board approves payment to the following: budget code H16202-capital fund, $28,802.69 to Building Innovation Group.
Second,
Second, Ms. Boyke. Discussion? Clerk will call.
Councilor Boyke.
yes.
Councilor Carr.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Next item, if the clerk would please note the time, we'll reconvene the public hearing to consider acceptance of the petition plan and contract drawings for the Northern Boulevard Sewer District, contract number 3, associated with phase 2 of the Island Hollow Apartments project. The clerk previously provided proof of post. There's been no further input received by my office on this particular issue. Are there any points of interest from any of the board members? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing component. Please note the time, clerk, Councilman. Next item, Mike, is the seeker.
Resolved, the proposed extension of the Northern Boulevard Sewer District contract number 3 lateral associated with phase 2 of the Island Hollow Apartment project is an unlisted action for the purpose of seeker compliance. The proposed action involves no permit granting authorities outside the town. The proposed project will not be a negative impact upon the environment and does not require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Karp. Discussion on number 5. Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor McCullough,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Item is adopted. Mike, number 6.
Approving the acceptance of the petition plan and contract drawings for the Northern Boulevard Sewer Contract Number 3 associated with Phase 2 of the Island Hollow, reads wrong, let's say the Island Hollow project. Whereas the Town Planning Board approved the site plan on December 4th, 2019, and whereas the town and developer have requested the public sewer be extended pursuant to the proposed petition map and plan. And whereas the developer will construct the extension to the public sewer at their expense. Therefore, be it resolved, the town board approves a resolution to accept the petition plan and contract drawings for the Northern Boulevard Sewer District Contract Number 3, subject to review and approval of the town engineer.
Need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Carp. Discussion on number 6.
Yes, Kate,
Yes,
I
Mike.
appreciate the time you spent with me today discussing this, and I appreciate that very much.
Discussion on number 6. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White, Counselor White,
You're muted, Ms. White.
I see your mouth is moving, yes, but Nancy, could you put your, she's up, nodding her head, yes.
Counselor McCullough,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Item is adopted. Next item is information for Lions Run. Kate, would you like to address Lions Run for us?
Yes, they've gone before the planning board for its further development of the Lions Run development, and Steve has kindly joined us if people have specifics on that extension of the Lions Run development. But the question was, the planning board engineer had mentioned to the developer that said, you know, run it by the town board to make sure they're okay with another pumping station. So we had met with the county and asked them, because the future is the county taking over the sewers, and the county had said they weren't going to stop development. So they were okay with new pumping stations. Pumping station is extra cost to the town a little bit. It works out about, we have 12 pumping stations that the town of Cicero owns. It's about $7,800 a year each. That's an average. So the newer pumping stations cost less than the older pumping stations for maintenance. But anyway, so that was the question before the developer goes further. They wanted to make sure that the town board was going to be okay.
Could you, Kate, get into a little more detail on the concept that the county was looking to take over the sewers in the towns? And they have not approached us formally, but they have approached other municipalities.
Right. The county's starting to get consent orders against them from the DEC because of a lot of inflow and infiltration and overflowing wastewater treatment plants. And a lot of it is because of the sewers that are incoming to the county's facilities, which are owned by the local municipalities. So the county has decided they'd be better off to take it over so they can control. Now, Cicero's been pretty good about fixing their sewers. We're not in as bad a shape as some of the other municipalities. So unfortunately, that might put us towards the end of this. But we had met with the county executive. He met with all the municipalities in February and told everybody about this plan. And some of the supervisors and people asked the question, hey, if we let you take control of our sewers, are you going to get to call the shots on development? And they said, no, we don't want to deter. He's pro-development, doesn't want to deter development, but it just gives them control of the maintenance so they can control, you know, not be in violation of consent orders.
And some municipalities have debt on their sewers, some don't, some have fund balances in their places. And there was a debate on if the county took it over, would they take over and basically take that money that was available in their checking account, so to speak, for the sewer maintenance. So there was discussion about that, how that would work, or if the municipalities still be responsible for the debt. So Obviously, each municipality has a little different spin on that based on their finances and how well they've kept up their sewers. So Kate is right. They have not reached out to us formally since that February meeting. So any questions on the Lions Run? Anybody have thoughts or input?
I basically checked with Kate as well, because obviously sitting in the previous planning board meetings when this phase came up, and Steve Procopio was kind enough to let me explain to me, because I knew there was questions in regards to wetlands and basic flow and so on and so forth. So I am good with it now. Thank you.
Other questions? If not, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, number 8. The board approves a $100 cash donation from Maria Mishkoff of Brewerton, New York, Town of Cicero, whereas on August 7th, 2020, during the CNY Supports Law Enforcement Rally at the Cicero Police Department, Maria Mishkoff of Brewerton wanted to show her support of the Cicero Police Department and made a monetary donation of $100 for any needed supplies or equipment for the police department. Resolved that the town board approves the donation of $100 for the police department by Maria Mishkoff, a town of Cicero resident, and place it in budget line B 3120.56.
Second, Counselor Bacallo.
Mr. Bacallo, discussion on number 8. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Next item, Mike Losap.
I feel like it's just been me reading tonight. All right, here we go.
Go for
Town
it.
of Cicero support of LoSAP Length of Service Award Program. Whereas the town of Cicero has historically supported our volunteer ambulance and fire workers, and we have adopted and complied with service award programs enacted across the state in an effort to support, retain, and attract our volunteers. And whereas in light of the global pandemic, state of emergency, and temporary hardships complying with the normal reporting and bookkeeping practices required by voluntary service award programs in the state. And whereas in an effort to help ease the reporting compliance hardships faced by our fire and ambulance volunteers in municipalities, the state of New York recently enacted a law amending section 217 of the general municipal law in relation to the determination of points of service award programs for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. And whereas the new law allows municipalities to adopt the amendment and new subparagraph P of section 217, which states in the substantive part, for purposes of determining total points earned for the calendar year in which a state of disaster emergency, as defined in section 20 of the executive law, has been declared pursuant to the executive order number 202 and 2020 as amended, and to address the outbreak of novel coronavirus, COVID-19, an active volunteer firefighter service award program may provide for the crediting for up to 5 additional points per month, prorated for periods of less than 1 month for each active volunteer firefighter for each month that special emergency response rules were in place. And whereas participation in the amendment and compliance requires the home municipality to adopt a resolution adopting same, it is hereby resolved that the town of Cicero specifically supports and adopts the amendment of section 217 of the general municipal law by adopting subparagraph P in its entirety. This resolution and compliance with the same is temporary in nature and shall be self-repealing upon expiration/termination of the state of emergency by executive order.
Second.
Mike, since you're involved in this part of fire service, would you like to translate that to what this means to the average firefighter for the monthly activities?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bill. Thank you. And then Robert, if you could back me up for the legal terminology. This is because we're in a state of emergency. It has hampered the volunteers' ability to respond to calls as well as do the training, as well as any other points of giving them the ability to, it's, you know, like the pancake breakfast, anything that you could accrue throughout the year, points that as a volunteer fighter, they gain towards their retirement at the end of their years being in service. Because
Right.
we are in a state of emergency, it has hampered people to be able to meet those requirements this year. And Robert, please let me know if I've explained that
No,
wrong.
you're doing a good job, Mike. That's exactly right. So this allows for the additional credit. It is a temporary measure and it expires on its own as soon as the executive order's completed. LoSAP's all based on points, and there hasn't been a good way with COVID to account for those points. So this helps them make up the difference, up to 5.
The points,
well,
are,
we
a way,
passed-
the points are a way of getting people to respond more.
Yeah. So this applies to all the departments in the town. Obviously, some of the fire districts and departments cross lines, so each of the other municipalities will have to take their own action. I was contacted by former Supervisor Dzinski, who gave me a verbal support from the South Bay Fire Department. He assured me he was going to get a letter to that effect. If I do receive that, I'll be sure to put it in your boxes. So that being said, any further discussion on number 9?
Yes, Robert, I appreciate all your help and assistance in getting this done.
Thank you. Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyd,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes,
Counselor Bacallo,
As an active volunteer firefighter in the town of Cicero, I will abstain.
and Supervisor Meyer.
Yes.
Ms. Supervisor Meyer, who
Yes.
seconded that one?
I did.
Thank you.
I did.
Oh, okay.
We were excited, a couple of us, to get on that one. So I'll yield to Mr. Cook.
No, it's okay. You beat me to it, Mr. Supervisor. That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, that item is adopted. Jonathan, number 10.
All right. Whereas the town of Cicero Town Hall is too small to efficiently handle public business, and whereas more space is needed in the Cicero Town Hall for the defendants and their counsel at the Cicero Justice Courts, and whereas there is desire to improve the flow and function of services for the public using the Cicero Town Hall as well as town employees, now therefore be it resolved. The town of Cicero Town Board directs the town engineer and director of Parks and Recreation to seek bids for the moving of the administrative function of the Parks Department to Williams Beach.
Need a second.
Second, Counselor Bacallo.
Mr. Bacallo. Discussion on number 10.
One thing I would say, Ms. Cosselman, if you could just correct for the record, the word council in the second whereas clause should be COUNSEL, not CIL.
Duly
Okay,
noted.
thank you.
Ms. Boyke, I have something to say, but you beat me to it, so go ahead.
That's
Okay,
all right.
Judy?
Yes. I still have some questions and obvious interest in this whole move and really trying to understand the full picture. Right now, I only have the obvious move of the Parks Department. I also have some concerns with the move because I feel that there's a possibility for a couple of other options that I myself would like to interject, but have not had the opportunity. The cohesiveness of the concept of a town hall is losing its town hall appearance because not that the police department, they were a separate entity, but still on the same property, and the highway garage would also a separate entity, but now in a different area as well. With the Parks and Rec, that has been in the town hall forever. And I just feel that I would like the opportunity, at least 2 more weeks, to be able to fully understand what the courts need, because this expense of which was proposed to us around $50,000. If there's any other quotes that we would need in proposing moving, that I think that it should be looked at as a full picture. I just think there's a couple pieces of the puzzle still missing. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Okay, I'm not opposed to this move. I question whether the impetus really was the Parks Department wanting to move to Williams Beach as opposed to wanting to find space for the courts, but it doesn't really matter. The thing I want to make clear here is that in terms of the courts, this does not solve the court problem. We have a serious problem here. Our town court is one of the busiest courts in the county. It is I can tell you now that North Syracuse is closed. It's the worst court facility in the county. It is completely insecure. This will allow for a partial compliance with what's called the Hurl Herring decision, which was a lawsuit by indigent services because people that use indigent services were not getting appropriate facilities to meet with their attorneys. This will allow us to have one meeting room. I believe that a court as busy as ours probably requires 2 or 3. This will bring us in partial compliance. It does not address massive security problems we have, capacity problems. The problems we have cannot be addressed by a couple hundred square feet of office space. To quote one of the judges, this is a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. So again, I don't oppose the Parks Department moving. I just want to make it clear that we need a permanent solution for the courts. This is not a permanent solution. That's why we have formed a working group that is looking at solutions. We're going to explore a lot of options for a permanent solution for the courts. There's a tendency in government to just kick the can down the road. Not pointing a finger at anyone here. I just think that's the way governments often function, and that is something that cannot happen because it has happened. This has been an ongoing problem for a long time for the courts. The previous administration was aware of it. That's why there was discussions about possibly adding on to town hall, possibly building a new facility, because those are 2 of the ways that we could address the problems that we have. So again, I'm glad we're implementing a temporary solution here, but I just want to make it clear that we cannot stop at a temporary solution and say, okay, well, we fixed it for now. Let's just worry about it later, because this brings us into partial compliance. It doesn't address ADA issues. It doesn't address the fact that we have massive security problems. The fact that right now we have to put prisoners in the lunchroom if we have court during the day. It doesn't address the fact that we also don't have a jury room. There are so many problems with this court facility. There's so many reasons why it's inadequate. So I'm glad that we're going to address one problem on a temporary basis, but I just want to make it clear, this is not a permanent solution, and we need to continue working for a permanent solution.
Okay, further discussion. Do any of the members want to further talk about the item Mrs. Boyke brought up? I'm going to interpret here that she's looking for to move this for the next board meeting.
If I can have a moment.
Yeah, Nancy?
I think moving the Parks Department out to Williams Beach seems to be, like Mr. Karp said, it's a Band-Aid. But it's also now getting us to use that building that we own, and it's just sitting out there, especially with the COVID problems. I know the County Parks Department has offices at all their different parks. So moving people out, something like that isn't as big of a deal as it may seem. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to use the building. But I agree with John, we do need to do something permanent. It's just not possible at this moment.
I agree. I just think we need to start planning. And if we are going to construct something, then we need to start saving for it so we can be fiscally responsible, not borrow or anything. It's just, we cannot implement a temporary solution without working on a permanent solution. That's just what I was getting at. So thank you for your comments.
Mike, did you have any thoughts?
I agree with Nancy. I agree with John. I just, we need to at least put the Band-Aid on. Like I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, what's your pleasure as far as Mrs. Boyke's? She did not make a formal motion to move it to the next meeting. So I'm going to take that in, I believe, the spirit of Mrs. Boyke. And so what's your thought about that?
What is your thought, Bill?
I'm trying to go with you folks. I've been trying to answer the questions as they've come up. To do it, we do not have a perfect solution. It's everything that Jonathan and Judy brought up is 100% true. Everything the points that Nancy brought up are true. We have a difficult situation in this building, especially now with the COVID and the courts starting now at 1 o'clock. It's very difficult for the courts, and it's very difficult for the public, frankly, when they're going to be here. And it's going to be dramatically more complicated once they start coming in for school taxes and seeking assessments seeking exemptions at the assessor's office. So they're doing the best they can. You know, I'm willing to go with whatever the group wants to go with.
I don't think it's necessary to delay the vote, but I also do not object to it if the rest of the board wants to delay it.
Okay.
I agree as well.
I would
Okay.
like to make a motion then, if I could.
I think you have a consensus, Judy. If you want to do the motion, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion that we extend this agenda item for at least 2 weeks to allow an opportunity to research any other possibilities to include that in the move of the parks and to accommodate anything possible for the courts. Move that to the next town board meeting.
As long as you said at least 2 weeks, I guess I'd vote yes on that as long as it were limited to no later
Right.
than the next town board meeting.
Exactly, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is I feel, only because this was just proposed to us in the last few days with the amounts, and I, for one, haven't had a full opportunity to finish my research on it. So that's my reason.
I actually have a question for Robert.
Oh,
Go
boy.
ahead, Mike.
Do we even need to make a motion to do this? Do we just not act on it and then put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Right. I'm not going to speak for Robert, but that's why I said to Mrs. Boyke, I think you had already a consensus on that if you wanted to vote it formally. So
Do you object, Mr. Supervisor, to moving it to the next meeting, or?
I have no objection.
Okay. I think we all
Well,
pretty much, Ms.
We have a
White,
consensus
Well,
on
that-
it.
That's
Nancy,
fine.
Nancy, do you as well?
As long as it's not gonna cut in the time frame of actually having work done to get them out there before winter hits, I'm okay with it.
yeah, that's why I said no later than the next meeting. I don't
It
want to
has
drag this
to
out any longer.
I agree. It has to be next. It has to be next.
But I'm going to interject one thing because Mike asked for my opinion on this. I'm going to suggest to anyone who has another option, and I'm totally open to other options. I want the best bang for the buck for the taxpayers, is to please, when you have a proposal, provide the financials and the build out numbers and the ongoing costs that would be with that proposal, so that I don't have to have the engineer and the architect. We've been very, very talented. We have a very, very talented engineer, and we've been very lucky to get an architect available for no cost, along with a number of other volunteers. So if we can help to keep that time frame together, the more data the new option has, the faster we're going to be able to do the analysis. So if you have an option, please have the financials with it. Okay, so
Would it
we have a
behoove
motion.
us to have, would it behoove us to the rest of the board to have a meeting scheduled for next week? Not to add meetings on here, but to schedule a meeting next week to discuss any of those options that we have come up with in the meantime? Or no,
Okay.
I'm not, again, I'm just offering it. We don't have to.
When we
Okay.
talk about options, I mean, at least as concerns the courts, I think that at least the way I mentally break it down is a short term and a long term. Because short term, I mean, you can't, even if we decided that it was the best idea in the world to build a new facility and we had the money, we can't build it in the next 2 months. And we're still
Right.
going to not be in compliance and subject to a potential lawsuit for that. So short term, I don't know what else really, what other options there really are. My concern is just that we not stop moving forward on a long term. So,
Okay, is it the will of the body to vote on Mrs. Boyke's motion, or are we in concurrence? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. I guess we're going to vote it. Okay, please, Mrs. Boyke, if I don't say it right, please correct me. I think the motion is to defer this item to the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Carp. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor White,
Yes,
Counselor Carr,
Yes,
Counselor White,
yes,
Counselor Vaccaro,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Okay, that item is moved to the next regularly scheduled board meeting, which is 2 weeks from now. The next item is number 11.
thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate
Next
it.
item is authorizing the town engineer to develop specifications and seek quotations for work on the Cicero Police Department building, Route 31, to resolve the water. Whereas the Cicero Police Building on Route 31 is an ongoing condition of water in the basement. And whereas the wet conditions limit the use of the building, and whereas the construction needed to fix the condition will require extensive expertise over a lengthy period of time. Now therefore be resolved that Cicero Town Board authorizes the town engineer to develop specifications and to seek quotations for work required to resolve the water conditions in the basement of the Cicero Police Department building on Route 31. There's a little bit of background. Thanks to Mr. Woznicka and the Highway Department, they did make an improvement in the building, and the gutters and downspouts were redirected properly. That relieved some of the water issue. There was a tentative review done to solve it from the inside after the town engineer and our very capable volunteer architect and number of folks from the police department reviewed the situation again. It was determined that a more long-lasting fix was in order. And so that's where we are right now. And if Kate would like to add anything, please, jump in, Kate.
Okay, and I think the only thing I noticed is I think we're taking it to a public bid. We think the bids are going to come in over $20,000, so it will be advertised in the newspaper.
Okay, further discussion on this item?
yeah, just so that people have an idea of the
I'll
severity.
second,
I
Bill.
mean,
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I mean, the water problem down there is bad enough to the point where the previous occupants of the building used angle iron to set up dams to try to prevent the flow of water into the walking spaces. I've never seen anything like that before. Maybe Mr. Procopio has, but I haven't. It's a serious safety problem. It contributes to the deterioration of the structure. I think that whatever solution needs to be a complete solution, not just a partial fix. Let's just get this thing fixed and make sure we don't have to worry about it again in the future.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on number 11.
I also,
Judy?
yes, I also took the opportunity to go over and I walked through the whole building with the chief and Sergeant Myers, and having a little bit of background in real estate and house building, that I was able to, I think, help them point out some of the situations that are occurring to possibly move along with getting this fixed once and for all.
Thank you. Further discussion on number 11?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I
Nancy.
find it
jump in.
very unfortunate that we didn't know about this when we purchased the building, so that, I mean, I understand it was a good buy and it's a good purchase. But we could have possibly at that point put in the money to get it fixed, and we wouldn't be at this juncture right now where we could really use that money for something else.
I completely agree.
Thank you.
I think the inspection was an oversight possibly, because if there were one, I'm sure that this would have reared its ugly head at that point in time.
I think the inspection was somewhat informal and cursory.
Yes, I believe so, which is costly to us.
Yeah, I mean, it would have had to be fixed either way, but I would rather have had it be budgeted for as opposed to something that's foisted upon us that was not anticipated. So
Correct.
Okay, I don't see any more hands up, so I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Blake,
Yes,
Counselor Carr,
yes,
Counselor White,
Yes,
Counselor Vaccaro,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Item is adopted. Looks like, Judy, you have number 12.
the board approves the hiring of Scott Cooley, whereas the highway department has a need to fulfill an opening Now therefore it be resolved that the town board approves the hiring of Scott Cooley with a pay rate of $26.02 and effective date of September 8th, 2020. I did follow up with this, and this is a replacement for Mr. Spinard, who retired. And it's been long coming because of the COVID. I think it's caused a situation that's put it off this long. So.
I'll
Good move.
second, Bill.
Second by Mr. Bacallo. Discussion?
Do we know what the title is?
He's an MEO
Thank you.
mechanic. Yes.
So I assume he's on the list.
Yes. Yes, it is a civil service. I did check that as well.
Further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Item is adopted. Judy, you have the next item?
Authorizing the clerk 2 position in Parks Department. Whereas Cicero Parks Department currently has a position filled by a typist 1, and whereas the title is obsolete in the current work environment. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Cicero Town Board authorizes the creation of a clerk 2 title in the Cicero Parks office and authorizes the canvassing of the clerk 2 list for the filling of the position at the hourly rate of $17 per hour.
I'll
And
second
this
that.
is, thank you. And this is to replace Dawn Mauer, who has is retired, and she is on a temporary basis. Thank
Okay,
you.
Jody, I see you on there. Would you like to pick up the mute and speak to this?
It has always been that once Dawn retired, we were going to make the titles uniform in the town hall. Typist 1 is obsolete. It asks for dictaphone and stenographer and those kinds of things. I looked at clerk 1 and clerk 2, for those that know what a dictaphone is, I guess.
Yeah.
I looked at clerk 1 and clerk 2. Clerk 1 is below this position. The position is a lot of data entry and management of data, and also all of our invoices and purchasing payments to the comptroller's office. So clerk 2 fits it very well. So that's where we're at. We want to get the canvas out as soon as possible, and Dawn has agreed to work with Teresa to do interviews to help get the right person for that position.
Thank you.
Further discussion on this item? Clerk will call the roll.
Second, please.
Okay, I marked it evidently wrong. I marked it wrong. So who has a second then on this item?
I thought I
I
did.
I thought we did too, but
I did.
for the record, if we don't have one, I'll second it, and then the clerk will make note. Clerk will call the roll.
Thank you. Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Item is adopted. Mike, number 14.
I apologize for that, Nancy. I'm like a seconding machine, so I just assume I did. Sorry. Approve the
You are.
purchase.
You know, you don't give
asphalt-
anyone a chance.
Say that again?
Said you don't give anyone a chance, just saying.
I will step back then. Approve the purchase of asphalt for highway department. Whereas the highway department is in need of additional asphalt for paving now, therefore be it resolved, the town board approves the additional amount of $129,000 for Barrett paving, Onondaga County bid number 0010306 from account code DB 511255.
Need a second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Boyke. Discussion on number 14.
Yes, I had a great meeting with Chris yesterday. Awesome. I appreciate that so much. Again, just for anybody, this is for the rest of the Darby Farms project, as well as for Sandra, Lou Wayne, and Doreen. So that's exciting. And a big thing, I don't know if we mentioned, Chris, and I know you mentioned to me yesterday, was 8 miles of road you said we've got done this year?
You're muted. Mr.
Chris,
White.
you're on mute.
He's muted, Mike, so you may have to,
How's that? Is that better?
okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be doing a little over 8 miles this year.
That's outstanding.
That's awesome. Yeah. Chris, I appreciate it. Yep.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Okay, so
If it's
if the
worth
board
noting-
remember, I'm sorry, if the board remembers, we had a conversation with the highway superintendent and some of the savings from the light winter, we were able to slide some of that money over for paving, which is a good thing. And then we were able to take advantage and rebid some of the asphalt because oil prices went down. So between those two options, we were able to get a few more miles done. So that's a good thing. So thank you very much. We have a motion and a second on the floor for the discussion.
Just to note, there's only 125,000 left in, as a balance in that account. Perhaps, last week there may have been 129, but as of right now, there's 125 left in that account. So I don't know if you want to change it to reflect the 125,000 rather than the 129.
We can change it to 125 and then do a budget mod at the next meeting.
Okay, I'm going to assume Mr. Bacallo is going to accept that modification, resolution to
You
125.
want me to read the whole thing again, Bill, or just say I accept?
If you want to, go ahead.
All right. Whereas the highway department is in need of additional asphalt for paving, therefore be it resolved, the town board approves additional amount of $125,000 for Barrett paving, Onondaga County bid number 0010306 from account code DB 511255.
Okay, we need a new second then.
Second.
We have a second. Further discussion?
Thanks for the catch, Alka.
Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blake,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Nancy,
Counselor White,
say yes, Nancy.
Counselor White,
Nancy, say yes.
Nope.
Okay, we lost her.
No,
Oh,
she's
there
back.
she is.
Still there.
Ms. White, can you hear us?
I'm
Counselor
sorry, I'm not hearing anything.
Okay,
We need a thumbs up or a thumbs
Yep.
down.
yeah. We'll skip Ms. White. Next
That
item.
is an extension, I
I'm
suppose.
sorry, the next person.
Supervisor Meyer,
Yes, okay, the item is, oh,
Me. I didn't get the vote. Aye.
I'm sorry, Michael.
It's all right.
Counselor Capello,
Aye.
I'm next.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, okay, item is adopted. We did not need Mrs. White's vote on that, so we'll have her as just absent on that one vote. Okay, Mike, you're on the roll. You got the next item.
Approve highway salt purchase at a lower cost. Whereas the highway department needs to switch the vendor for the road salt purchase order to American Rock Salt, as they were awarded the county bid for 2020-2021 season. Now therefore be it resolved, that the town board approves American Rock Salt Company county bid number 4315 in the amount of $110,529.96 from account code DB 514241.
Second.
Second, Ms. Boyke. Discussion on number 15. Roll.
Counselor Blakey,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes,
Good, gotcha.
Capello,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Item is adopted. Next item under discussion, I'd like to first introduce one item that I was sent, and this is on New York State Police reform. This was put in all the board members' mailbox. In short, it's calling, this is a item put out by the governor to all municipalities in the state of New York to have a police department. Much of it is directed directly to the police department, so they're obviously going to be involved. Another component, though, very important, is they're looking for public input, public involvement. And so if there are folks in the town of Cicero who would like to participate, please call my office, talk to Joe Lee, and we get your contact information on the roles once there is a public input component. So please make note. You can also go to the State of New York website. For those who do not have access, we do have a few extra copies here at Town Hall, so you can go through it at your leisure. Please call ahead if you need to review this copy. So that being said, the next item, which is a very important item on the tax bill, is trash and brush. And this has been reviewed numerous times. And Kate, would you like to kind of give us an update on the where we are for the brush contract?
Okay, I think I sent around an updated brush contract that was generally like the one that went out in the past 2 years ago. We do have an extension, an option of an extension on the existing, with the existing brush contract. I do understand that the town board members that, want to try to get the best price. I'm not sure if it goes out to bid, we'll get any better price, but it's what people want to do, so.
Well, it's not just about price, frankly. I think it's about service. I have fielded numerous complaints from residents about problems with the brush collection this year. I don't want to speak, but another department head whose employees are out and about quite a bit and have a lot of interaction with people said that his employees have been told about issues with the brush collection. One time when I called to follow up with the supervisor's secretary about a complaint that I had received from a resident, she said that she had already had to contact them that day about other complaints. So it's, we need to see what's out there, not just in price, but also in terms of service. I mean, this is the first year I've heard of any complaints, but there's been numerous complaints, too many really for me to think that it's a fluke. I know other board members have expressed that they've heard from people as well. So we have nothing to lose by putting it back out to bid because the option to renew is always there. I think it's a good policy to put it back out. And, let's see what comes back. I think we got nothing to lose, so there's no reason not to do it.
Yep, I agree with.
I think on the option to renew is it takes both parties to agree. And so the current vendor would have to also agree. So we'll see.
Yeah, difficult for me to, maybe they will be so offended by us putting it back out that they would not agree. But I mean, it is a pretty lucrative contract, so I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Okay, Mike, I think I saw your hand.
I agree with Councilor Carp. It's only good government when a contract ends to put it back out to bid. It's only good government.
Also, I would like to speak to that because I am out and about on a daily basis in my real estate business, and I have observed myself in some situations that lead me to believe that why the complaints were coming in. Plus, I have observed some safety issues that I have brought to the attention of the vendor themselves. And so I think that I agree with Mike. It's always good government because competition is good and price is not always the best option. It comes along with service.
Further comments on the brush component?
Can I interject on one?
Sure, Chris, go for it.
We receive on an average of probably 20 to 25 calls a week. Numerous times I have had to go send a truck out and pick up larger piles of brush because this gentleman is refusing to do it. I have a copy of the contract here and it says nothing about the size of a pile. Materials to be collected. Materials to be collected shall include all brush, leaves, grass, clippings, cuttings, limbs, sticks, branches, and Christmas trees. I have done this gentleman numerous favors. I cut down 2 trees in my yard about a month, 5 weeks ago. And the brush was no bigger than 2 inches in diameter, 4 to 5 feet long. And he told me that it's not in his contract to pick this up because he's losing money. They weren't massive piles. They were just smaller piles from a tree that both my son and I cut down. I will not do this gentleman any more favors. I figure if he got the contract and he's being paid to pick it up, he can pick it up. Numerous times I've had to go out and pick up trees out of the snowbanks because he's late getting to them. I don't think that as a taxpayer or a Cicero taker should be paying twice, sending my crews out to pick up the brush that he is also being paid for. I find it horrible that we had to take care of these piles ourselves as a taxpayer. I realize I'm a department head, but I'm also a taxpayer, and I should have had these piles picked up. They would sit in my yard for 5 weeks, and I know other people that had to go out and pick it up. Their piles have sat up all summer. So to me, I don't think that a dollar's worth out of, service out of this, gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Woznicki. You're the department head I was referring to. I just don't want to speak for you. I'm glad that you
No,
decided
that's
to speak
okay.
up because I knew you had a lot to say. I mean, I had 2 different people complain to me that they had numerous lawn bags out, the ones they sell at Lowe's and Home Depot that we're all familiar with. And they just picked up 2 or 3 and then just left the rest and didn't come back the next day. Like, oh, this is all we're picking up today. We spend a lot of money on this. There's really no excuse for it, for this level of service from a company that's very experienced in it. And this is clearly a problem that is, these incidents are not a fluke based on what Mr. Woznicki is telling us. So absolutely, this needs to go back out for bid.
Okay, if that's the end of the comments on the brush, I'd like to make sure that everyone understands, not just the board members, but the public, that on that tax bill line, it's also trash. And as a forecast, the Okra Onondaga County Resource Recovery Agency is looking for a substantial increase in the tipping fees due to the recyclable market and their operating costs. So the tipping fee is undoubtedly going to be going up. And so the not just the brush side, but also the trash side is going to have some major increases in costs. So just want to make sure that you got a heads up on that item.
It'd be very interesting if there'd be a way, because I encounter many individuals across this town that say, you know what, I don't generate, on the trash side, I don't generate enough trash to even put, trash out that week. It'd be interesting, and if we could look at somehow figuring a way to, opt out of the trash contract for individuals who'd like to opt out. It's something to look into.
You mean they'd contract with their own trash removal services like some towns have? I mean, I know Lysander does that.
Or they would just take it to Okra themselves. It's what people have expressed to me. Again, it's just something I told that I would bring up to the board. Again, whoever the board wants to do that, it's up to the board.
Okay. It's been done in places like Manlius, and it's been a very difficult thing. I understand what you're saying, Mike, and some people who are say they are willing to pay for it for 9 months, but they don't want to pay the other 3 months while they're, someplace else. So it's doable. It's just a challenge.
Nope. Absolutely, but like I said, I was asked to bring it up, so I
Right.
did.
No, I understand. Okay. As far as any public input, there was no input on any items on the agenda or for the previous agenda. So open it up to the floor for any of the board members if.
I did have something, Bill,
Yep.
if it was okay. So on tonight's agenda, let me just look back. For the Island Hollow, on the front page of the Island Hollow project, it lists Dick Cushman as a town councilor. I received so many phone calls today. My phone was ringing off the hook of people that were infuriated by this mistake. People were saying, I'm confused. He seems to be involved in quite a bit of town work. And they said, we did not elect this man to do such. So again, just reminding, the only persons who have the lawful governmental authority that can act. So give me some, sorry. The only persons who have the lawful governmental authority to can act, be permitted to act. So the only people that have that authority governmentally to act can act. He doesn't have it. Dick Cushman does not have that lawful authority. Contrary to what some people believe, he is not a fifth town councilor, nor is he a co-supervisor. So again, the last year, the Cicero voters voted twice, and they voted that they did not want him a part of the town government. Something I just wanted to bring up. I will be working with our board to address this at our next meeting.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that part. Kate, could you go through those documents and see if,
It's funny, I noticed that today for the first time. I did notice his name there, so I will make it as a comment to the engineer to take it off the cover sheet.
okay. Okay. Further discussion?
If nobody else does, Bill, I have something.
Okay, go ahead.
We have approximately about 75 to 100 loads of millings. In years past, the millings were nice and clean. We could sell them back to Barrett Materials and they'd recycle them. This has a lot of dirt, concrete, and rebar in it. We have no use for this rebar. Does the town board want to give it away? Do they want to sell it? I don't know if anybody will buy it because there are chunks of rebar anywhere from 2 inches to 2 feet long in it. But we have a huge pile that the highway department can't use.
Is there a market for it? I mean,
I don't know if there is, John. In years past, I mean, we're going back 10 or 15 years. We had tried selling some of it and, you know, we sold maybe 4 or 5 loads at $50 a yard. And then we ended up giving it away. Just, there was nobody really that wanted it. Sometimes you can use it for driveway. This would be tough because there's so much metal and bigger chunks of concrete in it. This is when we're milling out the gutters for paving projects.
but if we gave it away, do you think people would pick it up because to use it for landfill or something? I mean,
probably they
Don't
probably
we have to be careful though with the landfill because of the contamination? Is there a liability with us there?
I think that would be on whoever used it, not on us for giving it to them, right, Mr. Germain?
Robert, did you?
Sorry about that. Yeah, landfill
Yeah,
stuff
go
is
ahead.
tricky. Landfill stuff can be tricky because sometimes they also go through the chain of anybody that had dumped there if there's pollutants and so on. And if there's a large case, sometimes they hit the whole chain of who dumped. What we really need is a spoils policy to be adopted. We wrote one a while back, but it never got done. We could look at that again. I wrote one for you guys a while back.
If you could forward it to the board, then I would appreciate that. In the meantime, honestly, you know, Mr. Wozniak, I think I'd rather just, my thought on the subject is I'd rather just get rid of the stuff and give it away. I mean, I'm assuming that the policy you're proposing, Mr. Germain, would allow us to give it away, right? But
I would think they would have to sign a waiver or something on it, wouldn't they?
Robert's on mute
You're
right
muted
now.
again, Mr. Germain.
Robert,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Right. So if there's no municipal value and there's no value to it, we're allowed to give it away, but it should be pursuant to a policy. And, you know, there is a proposed policy out there that would cover all this, and I think we should do it.
okay.
I agree.
If you could forward that to me, I'll pass it on to the board, okay?
We'll do.
Quick question for Chris. Chris, is anybody, I know in the past that we've had several people have asked for the spoils of the millings. Has anyone asked this year?
I think might have had a couple way in the beginning, but we told them no, because I didn't know what the feeling of the board was, and I didn't know how much contamination of rebar there was.
Right.
Environmental problems, environmental impacts. It's just mainly concrete and small pieces of asphalt. I don't see anything that's going to be any hazard to the environment.
Right.
But again, that would be a Robert question.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say just, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but if it gets rid of it quicker, I don't think there's a lot of money to be made. I'd prefer just to give it away and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Robert, do you remember why the town, I think it was like 2015, I believe it went through this. Robert, do you remember why the town board didn't act on it? Probably not.
I do.
He's on mute again.
I don't, Mike. I wrote it for everybody and, you know, with the intention of it going through, but I'm not sure why. It would cover this type of situation though, and we've had questions about it in the past, and it's better just to have a policy in place.
Judy, you said you remembered why.
I believe there was a conflict with personalities that caused this to not happen. I guess that's about all I can say.
That's the Cicero way.
I'd like to make one quick comment on that police reform.
Yeah, go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, so just regarding that governor's 100-page document that he mailed out, I sent an email to the town board this morning advising where we stand at the police department and that we are a New York State accredited agency and one of about just over 200 compared to the 500 plus agencies in New York State. So a lot of that document applies to agencies that are not accredited and do not have strong policies, which we do. And we are working, as my email stated, with our county district attorney, Bill Fitzpatrick. There is committees and subcommittees, and we will be coming to Cicero, and there will be a forum, and we are looking forward to community support, good, bad, and different, and how to make the police department a better police department for our community.
Thank you. Further discussion from the board? I don't see any hands, so I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Carter, second, Mrs. Boyke, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody.
2 weeks, folks. Thank you.